So if you recall last Sunday's gospel, that was the two times that they had seen Jesus before the one in today's gospel. So they had seen Jesus twice. He had offered them his peace, and he had given them once again the Holy Spirit. And so they were so excited to go out and do what Jesus told them to do that they decided to go fishing. What? You didn't listen to Jesus at all? You didn't? Okay, you saw the risen Lord twice. The risen Jesus. Wouldn't you want to go and tell somebody about that? Maybe start doing the gospel work? Wouldn't you want to do that? Instead, no, they go home and they go fishing. All right. When I get to heaven, I'm going to quiz these guys on this and figure out why they made that decision. Because I think, fishing, really? And then their success at fishing is just as good as their success at discipleship. Because they kind of had failed that. And here they were failing at fishing as well. Now, it always makes me feel somewhat good because my own fishing experience hasn't been great. Whenever I see somebody who really is excited about fishing, I think you must have a good sense of yourself, because I always think fishing's about failure. You try and try and try and try and try, and every once in a while you catch one. But it's probably a good experience for ministry, though. And maybe it's a good lesson for the disciples as well, because you offer the gospel to people, just like you throw the lure out there, and every once in a while, somebody responds. But most of the time, people look at it and say, interesting, just like the fish does, and swims away. It is a beautiful scene, though, what takes place here on the shore of the lake, because it really says a lot about how much Jesus accepts us for who we are and covers what we lack. Sadly, in English, the word gets translated love all the time. You hear that little interchange between Jesus and Peter, and it's, do you love me? Yes, I love you. Do you love me? Yes, I love you. And so then it usually becomes a reflection on, well, he denied Jesus 3 times, and so he has to ask him 3 times, do you love me? But that's because it's in English. But if we did it in the original Greek, we would notice that there's different kinds of love being talked about there, which really makes it a beautiful scene. For Jesus asked Peter the first time, Peter, do you have agape for me? Which is self-sacrificing love. I will die for you. I will do anything for you. I will give my life away for you. So do you have agape? And Peter replies, Lord, you know I have philos for you, which is friendship love. It's how we love our friends. I don't give my life for my friends, but I love them and care about them and will work for them and strive for them. I have philos for you. And even though Peter only has that kind of love for Jesus, then Jesus gives him responsibility. to care for his church, to feed his sheep. Jesus asks a second time, Peter, do you have agape for me? And Peter says a second time, Lord, you know I have philos for you. I only have friendship love. I don't have love where I'll give my life. The third time, Jesus asks, Peter, do you have philos for me? Do you have friendship love for me? And Peter says, Lord, you know everything. We've been through this now. Yes, that's all I have. But I do have that. I have philos for you. I have friendship love. Jesus has called Peter to a higher form of love. But Peter is honest now. He wasn't honest at the Last Supper. I will die for you, he says at the Last Supper. And then when he's outside the trial there with the Sanhedrin, he betrays Jesus 3 times. He now is honest. He only has philos. It's all I got. I don't have self-sacrificing love. I failed that test. But Jesus now says, that's enough. It is sufficient. If you have philos for him, it's sufficient enough love. And Jesus is willing each time to give Peter the responsibility of caring for his flock, for his church, even though that's all he has, is just that level of love. But Jesus promises him, you will, Peter, give your life. Somebody else will stretch out your hands. You will die for Jesus. Someday that philos love, that friendship love, will grow into agape. It will happen. It's a very loving encounter. And it is an encounter that is offered to each one of us. Because if Jesus asked you today, as he asked Peter, would you die for me? I'm not sure how many of us here would say, yeah, I would do that. Or perhaps we'd be like Peter, sitting around the fire while the trial's going on and say, I'm not a Christian. I don't know what you're talking about. Jesus accepts what we have, whatever level we're able to give. Continuing to call us to more, but accepting us where we're at. And then perhaps we can learn from him giving responsibility to Peter. Maybe as the Lord gives us tasks to do, as we try to follow him, maybe it's in that living out those tasks of caring for others, caring for people that Jesus sends our way, that in that little bits of caring, offering love here and there, that we are bit by bit transformed, so that when he does call us to follow him to the cross, that we will be ready. But until then, know that he loves you and accepts you where you are.